We're speaking with Donna Jackson, and she's a brilliant political commentator, but she's also a top accountant with experience both in the private and the public sector. I want to blend those and get her thoughts politically on how do we fix this massive federal debt problem. We've got $36.5 trillion in debt. We spent $30 trillion in the, quote, war on poverty over the last 40, 50 years. This isn't sustainable. Donna, what do we do about it?
I mean, you know what? One of the things that I've always said is if most government agencies were a private business, they'd all go bankrupt. Honestly with you, they spend more than they bring in. They don't create efficiencies and innovations. And the primary issue is they're wrought with government fraud. Now, I want to, talk about the importance of language, because we know what we've seen over the last 4 years. In a private business, if I lost or couldn't account for $300 million, it would be fraud and people would go to jail. In the government, we don't use the word fraud. We use the word waste. We say government waste. So what's the implication there? That we got some usefulness out of it, and this was just the runoff of what we didn't need, what we don't have. Well, government waste is actually government fraud, and there needs to be some accountability. There needs to be some people that are going to prison because we're committing government fraud and we're actually legitimizing that. What you see, especially what DOGE is trying to do, is they're trying to identify those big areas of government fraud that's happening and alleviate that. We used to pay 3 weeks of our wages to taxes. Now people are paying 4 to 5 months of their income to taxes. And all of that is amounting to the overspending and the fraud that we see happening. What they've done really is built the American people. They grifted the American people out of millions of billions of trillions of dollars. And that's the reason why our debt is so high. It's not because these programs are actually going to produce the results that we want. It's because it's being stolen by individuals and under the pretense that we've somehow wasted, but we got some usefulness out of it.
Well, it's either going to come from the taxes, as you mentioned, or it's going to come from inflation, because we build up this massive debt. We have to print money to pay it off. That creates inflation, and that harms the average person. Even if you're not paying taxes, like you're below the threshold to pay taxes, and you're not making a lot of money, you're still paying for it because the prices have gone up so rapidly, and you're dealing with the inflation that's resulted from it.
Well, everyone is paying taxes. And here's the reason why. We either pay it through the products that we buy. There's seen taxes and there's unseen taxes.
That's true.
When you buy a product, they're being taxed 2, 3, 4 times at every aspect of the supply chain before it gets to you, and then you pay an additional tax at the sales counter. So everybody is paying a tax. But the problem is that most of these taxes are completely unnecessary. And what's happening with the tax money that we're using? It's going to government fraud. When I was in accounting at the bank, I talked to a partner in the one of the big 4 accounting firms. He said the biggest practice they have in Washington, D.C. is government fraud. And he said the amount of fraud that's happening is unbelievable. And so what we have is huge amounts of I don't even like the word overspend, because that's not really what we're doing. We're actually the huge amounts of government fraud that going to programs that are not doing what they're designed to do needs to stop.